Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. This is CMG Talk. This is Catherine Gallagher and welcome. Thanks for joining me. So I would like to talk about the term situationship. This is a term that I hear a lot, particularly when particular generations talk to me about relationships. They'll often say, well, I'm in a situationship. It's a bit complicated. And I'll say, okay, tell me about that. Talk to me about this. And they'll say to me, well, it's, they're not a friend, maybe seeing each other, we're not exclusive, might be just more than friends, right? Doesn't mean to say they're intimate necessarily, but of course they could be. And the idea is to see each other and see maybe where it goes, but it might also be that it's like we're seeing each other, but we don't necessarily want to catch feelings because we don't want anything serious. Well, that was how they started out. But what if in a situationship, one person does catch feelings? And what if in a situationship, one person is thinking, kind of really like this person, but don't really know where it's going to go. This is a kind of situation, really. And it's not a relationship. We're not in a committed relationship. We're not really seeing each other. We're not going steady. So I don't know really where it is. It's a bit complicated. And it might be that they could be going off and seeing other people. And you might have had a conversation where, are you seeing other people? And they've said, well, not really, but, I'm not saying I won't, but right now I'm not, but I could be. And what about you? And you've said, well, I know it's a situationship we're in, and I'm not really seeing MD, but I could be as well. But at the moment I'm not. And let's just be honest with each other. So at the moment, there's a kind of understanding that you're not seeing each other, but you've agreed that it's just fun and you're in a situationship because you're not really looking for commitment and you're happy how things go and it's going okay. And then you decide, actually, I like them more than I thought I did. What happens now? Because you haven't started off as, I like this person, I'm going out and we're dating. So it's complicated now. It's a bit confusing now. So where do you go? What do you do? When you start off with a situationship rather than a relationship, rather than dating, you start off with something when it's quite non-committal. I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, but the lines are blurred. And often it's a convenience thing. Well, it works for me. I don't really want anything too serious, Catherine. I just want it to be quite casual and I just like to go out and date and have fun. Right? But now I've kind of caught feelings. So what do I do? I'm in this situationship. I really quite like this person. What am I going to do about it? Is it time for honesty? Now, often the thought of actually going up to someone and saying, I know this is a kind of situationship, but, I'm just wondering how you're feeling, what's going on for you. Is this something we could progress? Is this something we could be in a relationship here? For me here, the conversation is often around, I'm ready now to look at a relationship with us. And if the person says, that's not where I'm at, or that's not for me, at least you know. And all they're really saying is, that doesn't sound as if it's a good fit for me. And when people say to us, really, that's not a good fit for me, what they're really saying is, that's not right for me. That allows us then to know so that we can go off and find the right person for us. Because if we don't speak up and we don't take that control back and ask, are you looking to move this forward now into a relationship rather than just staying in this situationship? You can spend not just days, but weeks and sometimes months and sometimes years in a situation that never really progresses and develops into anything deep and meaningful. Because you're too scared of being vulnerable and opening up and saying, hey, I quite like you. I'd quite like to get to know you. I'd like to see if this can develop into something more. People say it's because I don't want to fear. I don't want to get rejected. There's nothing worse than holding on to something that's not yours, when you could actually be moving on and finding someone that's a really good fit for you, and finding a relationship that is right for you. Think about that. And the reality is that if you're staying with someone that isn't ready or isn't wanted to be in a committed relationship with you, isn't wanting to take things deeper or further, then it's because maybe they're not ready, maybe it's the wrong time for them, maybe it's not what they want to do. And that's their right. So why would you hang around? Sometimes people say, well, maybe it's a timing thing, maybe I'll hold on, maybe I'll give them some time. Or maybe if you move on, let them figure it out. And if they decide they've made a mistake, then if they come back to you, you might have moved on by then. That's the chance they take. They might already have lost you. Life is precious. And we have to be true to ourselves and our own feelings and what we need and what's going to be good for us. And sometimes staying in situationships gives us a chance to figure out what we need and what we want and who we are. Sometimes we get to a point where we kind of figure that out and we know what we need and what we want. And if we don't look for it, ask for it, then we're staying stuck. We're not being true to ourselves. So, I wonder, are you in a situationship? Do you know people that are? Are you thinking, I don't really have situationships and it's not something I've ever been in? Or do you know this term at all? There are many people I talk to as well that say, well, I tend to date and then I tend to progress into a relationship and then it's either a commitment or it's not. And some people say, well, how I have relationships is very much it's kind of situation. I'm in a situationship and then, it either progresses to a commitment or it doesn't. But there are many people stay in situationships because they don't want a commitment. But when we stay in non-committed situations, we often find that we have multiple situationships where we never really progress more than the first dates, the first interactions. We might have multiple partners. But when we do meet someone we want to have a serious commitment to, they're often quite surprised about how many people you've actually been with. Because we learn and we grow from the relationships that we develop. And part of being in a relationship is understanding what it's like with who you are. The kind of person you are in a relationship and learning how to be in a committed relationship. So having single dates or dates that are just one or two dates or just being in situationships is not really allowing you to to grow within connections and building up your experience within dating. So think about that and what it's like for you if you're having multiple situationships. Part of experiencing relationships is learning how to share and learning how to be and compromising. And yes, you might have your heart broken, but you might also break a few hearts along the way, which is what can happen. But it's also about love, and it's about understanding your needs and your wants, and it's also about understanding what's good for you in a relationship and what commitment is for you. And if you're interested in understanding dating, relationships, I've done an episode, actually a couple of episodes, and you can access those if you want to. But situationship is something completely different. It's about being non-committal, isn't it? It's about having fun, not really having anything other than being able to enjoy. And there's nothing wrong with having fun. But there gets a point in your life that you miss out so much if you're not taking the time to really get to know someone and making the time to actually spend with someone, getting to know them. And if you constantly just pull away after 1 or 2 or 3 dates, or even if you're with someone for weeks and months, but you're not really actually investing in getting to know them through that point where you're making that kind of commitment to them and then making that commitment to you. That's where you really get the benefit of being in a relationship, when you really start to actually grow within and develop within a relationship and not just be in a situationship. That's how we grow and learn who we are when it's not just about ourselves, it's about someone else too. Situationships can have its place, but sometimes we have to grow and develop through that and beyond that too. Just a thought. What do you think? Bye for now. Until next time, thanks for listening.